Okay, so whenever I get to a club and I need to start filling out my notes, first thing I do when I arrive to a club, well, first I have all my documents that I'm going to need saved into my Microsoft OneDrive, so I have all my documents ready to go. So I open up my service order document here, and I have the Adobe Fill and Sign app, so I'll put open in another app. Adobe Fill and Sign. Now in Adobe Fill and Sign, I'm able to fill it out, so work order and just, you know, whatever your work order is, you can resize the numbers or whatever it is, dispatch date, customer. Obviously you'd fill it in, this is just generic so that way you can see what the process is. So you put what your work order is, the dispatch date, what club you're at, any notes if you have them there. You would fill out in your name, then you'd put in your signature there. Then you'd have somebody at the facility sign, so when you have them sign, you just tap here, create, have them sign, done, and then you insert their signature. You can resize it there, insert their signature, put it there, put their name, and you can always resize or whatever you gotta do to make it work. Alright, so now the work order form has been filled out, and then I'll hit share, and then I do all my notes on OneNote, so I'll click OneNote. Alright, and so that'll pop up like that, so you'll have the attachment of your note, and then I'll just put in the work order that I'm at. So I'm at, you know, whatever club I am, doing whatever work order, and then it always auto populates this we used Adobe Fill and Sign thing. I'll just delete that so that way it doesn't interfere with my notes, so I'll delete all that. Cool, and then I'll just hit save, and then it saves. Then I can come to my OneNote, and then it's the first one that pops out, but if you want to go through, so you have all your notes of all the clubs and everything you do, but that's the most recent one. And then I'll say I found, you know, whatever I found, enter, whatever else, enter, there's a bad foot, enter, bad walking belt, you know, just put in all the notes of everything you need. So then you have all your notes that you took. I usually just do them kind of shorthand on my phone, and then I clean them up once I get to the computer. But it's got the club name or whatever work order you're at. It automatically timestamps it whenever you did it, and then all the notes you hit. Alright, once you're done, just enter, close it out, and then it automatically syncs to your computer, so as long as you use the same account. So then I come to my computer, I'll open up my Microsoft One account, or my Microsoft OneDrive account. Come on now. Minimize. Okay, so everything I just did should auto-populate here in a second. And I'll continue those notes here on the computer, and I'll type together. So go ahead, you can close the video. Alright guys, I tried to set up the screen recording application on my computer, but I couldn't get it working, so I'm going to have to do this the good old-fashioned way. So, after you do everything on your phone and you send over the notes to yourself through the OneNote, it should auto-populate. So you get all your notes that you have. So here I've got the notes. I'll go to one that I've cleaned up already. Alright. So, on your notes, you'll have your attachment with your signed service order sheet. You'll have the name of the club, what you did, so Arlington Highlands PM. There's the date and the time that I was there. There is the signed work order, and then there's everything that I found wrong. So I found that there was missing hardware, these things, and then everything that's highlighted are the parts that I need and the amount of the parts that I need. So I need part number 138 times 2, 138 times 2, 138 times 2, 64 times 2, 36 times 2. So those are all the parts that I'm requesting for things that I found that was wrong. Here's my supporting evidence of what I found was wrong. So I click on that, and it's just a link to my Google. Anytime I take pictures of anything wrong while I'm at work, I just let it sync to my Google account. I make a quick little link for it, share the link, so that way all the supporting evidence is there. So I took pictures of everything that was bad, and then I attached it. Here's a video, so if it's a bad roller, if something's making a funny sound, make sure you catch your video for it. But all the supporting evidence of what I said was bad is all attached. Go back to the notes. So I've got the supporting information, then I'll include the miles, I'll include my invoice number of what invoice number this is, so each invoice needs to be numbered. So when you do your invoices, you'll just fill out, you have your name, your address, then you'll have the customer name, so the name of the location that you're at. Invoice, just they're all going to be numerical order, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so each one goes up in order. That way you can keep track the date that you're submitting your invoice, and then the work order, so it'd say what the work order number was or what you did. Then you'll come in here, then you'll type in the amount that you traveled, and type in service labor, or however long, whatever it is that you did. Just make sure you have all the information correct, your address, everything like that. And then once this one's done, and then we're gonna go to do the next one, what I do is I just Control All, Control C for copy. And then I'll just hit the little plus to add another sheet. Now we're at sheet 2, Control V. So now we've got it all pasted in, so now we'll just change that 1 to a 2. Then we'll update the date. We'll update all the information, but that way you keep it all carried over. And then invoice 2, then invoice 3, then invoice 4, invoice 5, just keep going down the line. And then if you need to edit it for whatever reason, or you can just click down here, change that to an 8 or 9 or 10 or whatever it is that you have to do. Control V. So that's the invoice. You just fill it out what your miles and hours were, and then you'll come over here to your notes, and then you'll plug in what your miles and hours were, and then the invoice number. I have all the supporting documents of your pictures and videos. I have the part numbers all listed out for whatever it is that you're requesting. Make sure it's described of why you're requesting it. So these ones, they were all missing. The deck cushions, and then the pictures of the deck cushions show why they're bad. The bolts were sheared off in them, or they're stripped. Then always make sure that you have all the numbers for your treadmill, so what treadmill it is, belt distance, total time. So all that information needs to be in there. If anything happened, if there was any complications, if you couldn't figure it out, so just make sure your notes are thorough whenever you submit them. This was a pretty simple PM, so I just documented what was wrong, but list everything you did, why you did it, how you did it, anything that still needs to be done. So in case there's another tech coming in behind you, that way they can just look at your notes and they know what needs to be done. They don't have to start from scratch. And then same thing for the clubs, that way they know what's going on with their machines. And then same thing for Molly, so in case she needs to know what's going on, in case the customer's contacting her. So just make sure that you supply enough information, so that way if another tech takes over because you're not available for whatever reason, in case just for good communication. It helps everybody out the better you communicate. So take good notes, be thorough, make sure you submit the parts that you need, put the right pictures, miles, hours, all the information in there. So more information never hurts, so put more information in there. And so that's how I take all my notes. I keep them all organized, so as I take them, I'll take, see Pearland, and I've got lists of everything happens at Pearland, and then I got Sugarland, I got a list of everything happens at Sugarland, and I've got San Felipe and everything that happens at San Felipe. So I keep them all organized, so that way in case there's trends happening at a club, I'll know that, hey, this has happened at this date, this date, this date, and this date. So that way I can keep track of what's going on at each location and how often. If Free Motion has a question or the club has a question, I've got detailed notes of everything that's ever happened at that location. So it's good for keeping notes. I use Microsoft OneNote. You can use whatever note-taking application you decide to use. I've had good success with keeping good notes with this. It's good, easy for sharing, good at keeping organized. I'm able to keep all my attachments, all the pictures or anything in here. So it's good for me for keeping organized, and it works well with everything I do on the phone. It automatically syncs over, so it helps me out a lot. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me. Oh yeah, so whenever I'm ready, I just let me see, I'll go back, file, home, work orders, my notebook. So the one we were working on, oh, it's already gone. But whenever I'm ready to send it, I'll just highlight everything. Boop. I'll hit copy. Boop. And paste into my email. Paste. For some reason, whenever you copy and paste it like that, the attachment doesn't get it, so you gotta copy the attachment too. Copy. Paste. So now I got my signed work order attached. I've got all the notes the exact same. Work order number, the link still works, everything's good. Email that over, and that's how I do all my notes and how I submit them. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, feel free to give me a call, text, email, and I'll try to help out. All right, thanks a lot. Bye. One more note. So on my Microsoft OneDrive, I keep all my notes and documents and all the important sheets that I need to have. So if you were wondering where I was getting the numbers for the parts, you should have the PDF, and if you don't, just contact me. I'll send the PDFs to you for where you get the part numbers. But I'll get them from here. So if I needed to order that cable, I just put in 111. If I needed to order, you just look for whatever you need and request it. So if I'm and whenever I replace anything, I replace all the hardware to it. So if I need to replace this lift motor, I'm going to request 76, but I'm also going to request 110 times 2. I'm going to request 14. I'm going to request 35. I'm going to request 15 and 35. So I always request all the hardware, so in case whenever the parts come in, you take the old bolt off and it happens to be stripped, or when you take it off it's missing a washer, or it's cracked, or it's missing bushings. It's always better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it at the same time. That sometimes you take something off and then it gets stripped, and so then you don't want to be there at 3 in the morning working and then something's stripped and now the treadmill's down because you can't put it back together. So it's better to have the hardware requested and on hand. Lots of times people will replace a feet and they forget about these little nuts here. They're always missing these nuts. So request 64 times 2 and 36 times 2. Anytime I replace one foot, I replace both, because the newer style ones are different from the old style, so it's better just to replace both. If you're changing a belt, you got to flip a board, so request a belt, request a board, take into consideration the hardware that's going to be taken on and off that might be getting stripped. So maybe 7, maybe you might be missing some washers over here. So just keep in mind all the parts that you're going to be coming in contact with when you're working. So request anything you think you might need, and that's where you get all the numbers for whenever you're requesting stuff.